Good evening. Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 here for SEC Baseball Weekend Reaction. I'll be joined shortly, I think, by Graham Doty, Alfred Esmond, and Jay Greason. But hey, a ton of you guys are waiting in the comments. The chat is hopping already. I know you guys are eager to talk baseball, so I'm here till I get here. Hope everybody had a great and safe and happy weekend. And man, what a weekend it was in SEC baseball. I mean, we did not get to do a Saturday night show because we all had other things going on. That's the first time I think we haven't done that in a while. So we're going to hit pretty much everything from the weekend as we go through the show. We'll take your questions. We'll take your comments. So much is going on in the league. I mean, I think this weekend of baseball honestly just really, really delivered. You had some dramatic wins. I was at Vanderbilt today watching them walk off Alabama. You had Tennessee walking off Auburn in the Game 2 situation this afternoon. And by the way, I hope to God we never get weather like that again. I know we will because it's baseball and it's the Southeast. But, man, that sucked. Having to check and double check and triple check and see when game times are. And just when you get the game time, we're in another rain delay. So that was the bad part of the weekend. The good part of the weekend is I think unless your team lost the series, which is about half of you here, just really, really hard to find fault with the baseball, the drama. You had so much going on. I think obviously we've got to start with Arkansas, which swept Texas. Like nobody had beaten Texas in a series all year. And Arkansas swept Texas, and a couple of games weren't even close. You had Georgia sweeping Missouri. We expected that, right? I mean, I think everybody and their brother had Georgia winning the series in Columbia, but Missouri made it close. You had Texas A&M and LSU with the series with a lot riding on it. A lot riding on it. LSU is looking to get a national seed, still can, and A&M's just looking to get in the tournament. And I have had faith the Aggies will get there. I'm even more confident this weekend. A&M really, really pitched well. Got some very timely hitting this weekend and wound up upsetting a pretty hot LSU team that took down Tennessee last weekend in what was really a classic of a series. You had Vanderbilt down 7-2 in the eighth inning with 2 outs today and nobody on. Walking off Alabama 9-7. Vanderbilt gets a series win there and is very much in position not just to host, but for a national seed. And by the way, I'll try to get into some of that a little bit later in the program when we got other fans here. Hey, Quinn, thanks for joining us. Auburn, we haven't even mentioned the Tigers yet. Look, if it wasn't for Arkansas taking down a Texas team that has just been untouchable, Auburn would be the talk of the weekend and is a major talking point anyway. I'll tell you what, I am really impressed with the job Butch Thompson has done. Not only turning Sam Dutton into what Butch Thompson has turned Sam Dutton into, but he pushed the right buttons with the bullpen today. I didn't think when they took Christian Chatterton out that was the right move. Cade Fisher comes in and just really slammed the door on Tennessee, which Cade Fisher is capable of doing that from time to time. We have seen it. But Chatterton was so good, I was really surprised that Thompson pulled him. That ended up being the right move. Auburn was so good all weekend. So good. Even the game it lost was an extra inning game where Tennessee brought Liam Doyle in because, of course, I think as everybody knows right now, Doyle did not throw on Friday night. After that rain fiasco in Knoxville. So Auburn with a huge series win. Man, the more I watch that team, the more I'm impressed. That lineup right now is so tough to pitch to. Those freshmen are really, really hitting. Chris Rembert has really become a player. Bub Terrell's a really good freshman, competitive at bats all the time. They put the ball in play constantly. Ike Irish has been on a tear. They got Cooper McMurray behind him. super impressed with Auburn. And not just the hitting, the pitching this weekend, and not just Sam Dutton, was really, really good. Tennessee's another topic. I'm sure we'll get to that one later in the show. You had Oklahoma taking 2 out of 3 from Ole Miss. Both teams now 13-11. Oklahoma, I think now with a puncher's chance, it may be hosting a regional. Although here's the weird thing. The RPI, it loves you playing on the road, win or lose. Ole Miss, I think, actually went up in the RPI to 16, and Oklahoma stayed at 22, which came in right around that range. But anyway, you had Kyson Witherspoon doing Kyson Witherspoon things in the opener. Ole Miss got the middle game. Austin Foley hit a home run for Ole Miss. He's had a really good season. We've talked about him some for sure. And let's see. Who have I missed so far? Oh, Florida just demolished South Carolina. Liam Peterson got pulled on Friday night after 5 pitches, another rain situation. They win the middle game of that one today, 22-3. Sweep South Carolina. Florida now 11-13, 15 in the RPI. I mean, I think this is a long shot, but just play along. 15 in the RPI normally gets you in hosting range. Now, they're not gonna host right now. But let's just say by some miracle, Florida would win 5 of its last 6 games against Texas and Alabama. Texas on the road. You'd have to talk about the Gators as a host team. Now, I don't know how you sort through everything else in the SEC, but Florida really playing some good ball. Really playing some good ball right now. Let's see, what have I not gotten to so far? And I'll get to your questions and your comments in just a minute. Oh, man, Mississippi State. Boy, was I wrong about that one. I thought that was a bad matchup for Mississippi State. The way the bullpen had been pitching, the way State had not been defending. I guess maybe they should have pulled the plug on Chris Lemonis earlier, because that's the best ball Mississippi State has played all year. I know Kentucky isn't a series win that gets your attention the way it would if it were Tennessee or LSU, but we have talked about how tough that team is. Nobody has really run away from Kentucky all year, really, I think, until this weekend. So Mississippi State, RPI now of 12, 10-14 in the league, 29-19. State's got 3 games with Missouri and a huge series with Ole Miss. How about this? Mississippi State could still have a winning conference record. That's crazy. Now, it would have to run the table and win all 6 of those games. But, you sweep Missouri, you take 2 or 3 from Ole Miss. Suddenly you're 15-15 in the league, and there is no NCAA tournament discussion. Mississippi State is getting in at that point. So I think we've hit everything. I'm waiting on Graham and Alfred and Jay to get here. I thought they'd be here by now, but they'll get here soon enough. I think that is all 8 of the series that I mentioned. So to recap, Arkansas sweeps Texas in Fayetteville. Georgia sweeps Missouri in Columbia. Texas A&M takes 2 of 3 from LSU in College Station. Auburn takes 2 of 3 from Tennessee in Knoxville. Vanderbilt takes 2 of 3 from Alabama in Nashville. Oklahoma takes 2 of 3 from Ole Miss in Norman. Florida sweeps South Carolina on the road. Mississippi State sweeps Kentucky at home. So, but bottom line is, a lot of teams did work this weekend. Arkansas, I think, barring a collapse now, is going to be a national seed. I think we need to start talking more about Vanderbilt and Auburn as national seeds. I think those teams have been getting projected lower than they are, because a lot of the tournament projections are just that. They're projections. They think teams are going to lose series. I think we start talking about what those teams are doing now. That's a different conversation because both Vanderbilt and Auburn, I don't know how you'd keep them out of national hosts at the moment. A lot of stuff to go. You probably got to get to 17 or 18 wins in the conference. But right now, if you're picking who's going to host, both those teams are right in there. All right, leave your questions, your comments. Super chats are great because we got bills to pay around here. That really helps us. Join the channel if you don't mind as a member. We're going to be generating some members-only content coming up soon. We're thinking about doing that this weekend, but we couldn't get it together in time. Just checking to see when my other co-hosts are going to be here. Oh, here we go. Hey. I was getting sick of hearing myself talk. Thank you for being here.
How's it going?
Man, what a weekend. What a weekend of college baseball. You've been doing a lot of driving too, sir.
I have. So I had NC State, Auburn, and literally just got home.
Softball.
Yeah. Correct. Had to battle the rain, which I feel like everybody did.
Let's talk what caught your eye this weekend. I mean, Texas, Arkansas is the easy one, but man, we had some interesting stuff.
A lot caught my eye. I guess Arkansas is the main one. Just their bounce back performance, having dropped their previous three, and just what they look like, what Texas looked like. Tennessee, Auburn was a big one. LSU, A&M, and then Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I just feel like there were a lot of stakes. Even Vanderbilt, Alabama. There was just a lot of big series this weekend, in a positive way. And then you got, I feel like, teams going the other direction, and South Carolina would be one of those.
Yeah. See, South Carolina the last 2 weekends, Auburn and LSU. So I like Auburn's chances of getting a national seed even more after seeing that. Auburn's also got Ole Miss. And that one's in Oxford, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that could be a series for something. South Carolina to me feels like it's thrown in the towel.
Boy, okay. Let's
that's a loaded. That might be a loaded question. We might
let's dive in to South Carolina. So, anytime you see parents of a player on the team just kind of unload on social media, which is what's happening this weekend for South Carolina, it's not good. I'm getting vibes of year one for Nick Saban when he was at Alabama, and he inherited a bunch of guys on the team that just weren't his recruits, weren't his guys. And so that was the worst team that he ever had at Alabama. Not saying that Paul Maneri and South Carolina are about to go on a generational run, but it's very, very clearly they're just not gelling. This year one team that he has, and he and his staff, and what they want to do. So remember, he inherited Monty Lee. Monty's been there for a while, and then he brought his pitching coach Rooney with him, and it is just not working out. I don't really say the Q word a lot, quits, because how can you prove that? It's so hard to prove that. But man, it just, that was something
22-3.
I mean, Chris, he made a pitching change in the 9th inning with 2 outs, down 11, and then they immediately give up almost double-digit runs, with the pitching change after that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going well at all. So I didn't think a change would be made, and certainly, I mean, we'll wait and see if something happens, but I mean, that's one to watch now, just because
Yeah.
the athletic director that is there didn't hire him. And the other thing was South Carolina, like Ole Miss played there 2 weeks ago. Like the shadow of Ray Tanner looms large. Like Ray
Yeah.
Tanner was in the booth, like on the air when Ole Miss played there. You know, like he's still, even though he's not the current AD anymore, like he's still around and seems like he's pretty involved.
Yeah. As for Florida, did you? I'm trying to Twitter search because I wasn't watching that one. I wonder why Aiden King left the start after 2 2/3 today, because he didn't give up a run. And they brought in, I think they brought in, did they bring in Liam Peterson? I'll have to double check that.
Hold on, I'll try to pull it up too.
This weekend was the hardest weekend to follow just because of all the rain delays.
Correct. Hold on.
I've got it in my notes somewhere. But like that was the thing where, like, okay, if this is going to go badly for Florida, it's going to take something like what we saw in the way that the series started, which is Liam Peterson throwing 5 pitches and not being able to come back. But I mean, they just boat raced South Carolina, and frankly, now this isn't going to be easy. They got to play Texas and Arkansas, but you just win 2 of those games, 13 and 17 in the league, you can sleep safely. Honestly, I think if they go 12 and 18, I know it would be precedent, but I don't know how you could leave them out. RPI is going to be in the teens
for Florida. Yeah, I think they're going to be.
By the way, Peterson did throw in relief today, threw 3 innings in relief.
Okay. But yeah, I think Florida will be fine. And again, they have the wild card that nobody else has. That's Scott Strickland, who's on the committee, their athletic director. If you don't think that matters, like I don't know what else to tell you. So I think Florida will be fine. I think they're getting healthy, at the right time. In South Carolina, I mean, like they're on my radar to watch just to see what they look like moving forward. And just like everything around that, like one of my good friends is a diehard South Carolina fan, and like from there, all that stuff, and it's just not good at all. And I mean, like when you play teams matters too. Like we've touched on that some, and like if Ole Miss, like that Ole Miss series loss at South Carolina just looks atrocious right now, and could really come back to haunt the Rebels. And I mean, if Ole Miss would have waited a week or two to play South Carolina, I kind of would take Ole Miss's chances right now.
Yeah. All right, we didn't get to do it last night because we didn't have a show, but we got to talk Arkansas. I mean, my goodness, that is the series win of the year probably. I know it's a home series win that made it easier. Nobody had handled Texas all year. The starting pitching was not great. They went with Beidelshees in game 3. He gives up 4 and 4. Ben Bybee, one of their better relievers, he comes in, gives up 3 in an inning. And then Dylan Carter and Christian Fouch shut him down. The offense closes strong. Arkansas gets a 13-8 win. And not only, I mean, I'm not surprised Arkansas won the series. I picked it. Am I shocked that they swept? A little bit? But I think what's really shocking is how easy this was for them in terms of the scoring margins and everything. That one I didn't see coming. Nobody has hit Texas like that all season.
Correct. And I try not to do hot takes just because that stuff like drives me crazy when you turn on like ESPN and Fox Sport, like FS1, whatever. And it's just some of the stuff they talk about. It's like, what are we doing here? But like, to me, this was so impressive for Arkansas and just kind of the potential that we knew that they could be. And like, to me, like I would be really surprised if they don't make it to Omaha. Like,
yeah, I would be too.
Like really surprised. And I see it in the chat. A lot of people talking about Reese Robinette. Like when he was in, like the first 2 games of that series were on national TV, and I watched games 1 and game 2. I didn't watch game 3 today. I mean, like when I saw him, I was like, "Who is this guy?" Like he's barely
He barely
played.
played.
He's 22 at bats all season long, and like when he was up there, it's like, okay, this is somebody that's barely played all season, and I really like his approach. And he's essentially playing because Maxwell's banged up for Arkansas, and who knows what his status will be the rest of the way. But I mean, even if Maxwell comes back, like what do you do with Robinette? Even if you put him at DH, like that's just another weapon in the lineup for the
Yeah.
Hogs.
Well, and that's the second because Carson Bowles had a big game a couple games back. I think was it the opener when he played 24 games in a weekend. They start to run together. But Bowles had a bomb. I think it was on Friday. I mean, yeah, this is a really deep offense. The lineup is tough to pitch to, top to bottom. I mean, they've got Kendall Diggs still hanging around. I know he doesn't play much anymore, but that guy's play a lot of good baseball. I guess hasn't been the same since the injury, but their starting pitching was better this weekend.
Yeah,
Root was the good version of Root. You had the Gackle Wood combo in the middle, and then the back end of the bullpen was good enough when the front end of the rotation in the middle of the bullpen wasn't very good in Game 3.
I see it in the chat, and they even touched on it on the broadcast. Carl Ravage had the first two games. Like they comparing Robinette to Kerstad, and it's like, whoa,
What?
Like what? Wait, like, whoa! You're gonna put that on him right now at this point in the season? So, I mean, that's definitely something to watch. Like, how does Arkansas utilize him moving forward?
Yeah, and this is the thing. He's in because Souza's out. Souza's done for the year. Kozel's the only other second baseman they've got. And look, I don't think he's a phenomenal option defensively at second because he had trouble getting on the field in a spot at Vandy and Arkansas. I mean, and you heard Dave Van Horn talking about him before the season. He got asked, where's Cam going to play? And he just kind of hemmed and hawed and said, you'll basically have to make a way. Not that he's terrible there or anything. I'm just saying,
right?
I think both teams had better options defensively. I mean, that had to be the issue because the bat's pretty loud when it's on. No, it's inconsistent. Said Maxwell has nothing to do with it, and Maxwell can play left also and first. So that's another guy. They were down Maxwell. Heck, they were down this weekend. They were down Carson Wiggins. They were down. Oh gosh, who's the Hunter Dietz? I don't think still hasn't pitched yet. Did he throw this weekend? I don't think he did. Arkansas fans will let me know, but he hadn't pitched coming into the weekend all year. Was coming back and had a weird accident where I think he was warming up with one of those bands in the bullpen, not like that plays music, but like the big rubber band things, and it snapped and like hit him in the face or something. It was a weird injury.
Yeah. So again, Arkansas, I think they are in phenomenal shape. They got the most wins of any team in the country in all of college baseball right now. I guess on the other side for Texas, I kind of think like this is what you want if you're Texas. Like you'd rather go through something like this right now as opposed to postseason play. I think Texas will be fine, but like they're gonna have to figure it out. Like life without Spencer, what does that look like moving forward? And to me, like one thing I want to see with Texas moving forward, like is this a team that I feel can win anywhere? More than likely, everything's going to run through Austin for them to try to get to Omaha. Regionals, super regional. So, we won't really have to keep an eye on that. But there's certain teams in this league that I feel like I don't care where they play. I feel really good about them. Arkansas is one of those teams. Like this is a team that's played on the road. Even in their losses here lately, they've been close and they haven't really been blown out.
And I think Texas was 9-1 on the road coming into the weekend. Like a lot of teams can go into Fayetteville and get smoked on the. I mean, heck, Arkansas. Vanderbilt's got 5 home losses all year. 3 of them were to Arkansas. I mean, when Arkansas gets hot. I mean, they may beat anybody, anywhere, anytime. But you get them in Fayetteville when they're really playing well. good luck to you.
Yeah. The other team, I'm trying to think of teams that I think could win anywhere, home, away, neutral, whatever. I do think Texas A&M is one of these teams. Like
Yeah,
I really
they've
do.
shown it.
Yeah.
I think you got a lot. I mean, Auburn, man, Auburn was 4-8 on the road coming into Knoxville, but I want to look and see who those 8 were against, because like you catch it's not
Georgia
easy when.
well, 6 are to
Well,
Georgia and Texas.
yeah, I mean, look, Georgia and Texas may be the 2 toughest places in the country to play.
Mm-hmm.
With apologies to Arkansas, because Georgia just built for that ballpark, and I think Texas is too. So, yeah, I mean, I think to me, you kind of got to put a big asterisk next to that road record. I mean, I'm surprised Auburn won 2 out of 3. I'm not shocked, but I'll tell you what did shock me is how much Auburn looked like the better team. I mean, yeah.
Go.
Well, I mean, Irish is really, really hitting the ball like Ike Irish when we thought he would. Chris Rembert has been tremendous for them. He was SEC Player of the Week last week. I think Ballou had a big hit for them today. He's been really good at times. Bub Terrell is not hit super well, but he's really talented, and I think has a pretty good approach. Chase Fralick's been, best freshman catcher in the league. I mean, all of a sudden, there's not a lot of big holes in that lineup. And Dutton is like the closest thing to automatic you get. But now that they're getting pitch, like Fisher was good today. I was surprised they didn't stick longer with Chatterton, but Butch, I guess, knew what he was doing in pulling him when he did, because Tennessee hadn't been hitting him. Maybe it was okay, these guys have gotten enough looks at him. That's a tough spot for a freshman. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've got a lot of old bullpen guys, Armstrong and dudes like that. And they haven't always been good. Dylan Watts hasn't really been good this year at times, but they're guys that have pitched a lot of ball and have pitched well at times and are capable of pitching well. Like, I'm looking at Auburn differently after the last. I mean, like the LSU series was the warning shot, right? But a lot of teams can go get swept on the road like LSU did. For Auburn to go in Knoxville for a Tennessee team that was kind of wounded and really needed to answer the bell at home because it hasn't played well at home lately, I mean, that was unbelievably impressive to me.
It was impressive. Here's what I'll say about Auburn. Like, I'm not surprised. I mean, I picked Auburn to win the series. Now, at the time, I did not realize, Chris, that Auburn had lost 7 consecutive SEC road series. Like, I had no idea when I made that pick. To me, what makes Auburn dangerous, you went through the lineup. Like, everybody knows. To me, their freshmen are playing at the highest of anybody in the SEC. I mean, I put them over Tennessee right now. I mean, look at the projections of those two teams. Like, Auburn is on fire right now. Tennessee's had a bad month. And then Dutton. I mean, I would put Dutton up there with anybody for game 1. So, like, if Auburn, unless the wheels fall off, which I don't think they will, like, they're going to host, and it looks like everything is going to go through Auburn for them to get to Omaha. Yeah. And, like, when you have a weapon like Dutton in your back pocket and that lineup, like, they're going to be extremely difficult to beat. I want to talk about Ike Irish. We do not talk about this man enough. I think he's the best player in the SEC. Like, he's not going to win SEC Player of the Year, but I really do believe that he's the best player in the league.
Yeah.
Like, in a span of 2 innings in game 2 against Tennessee, he got a base hit. He stole second. He stole third. He later scored on like a wild pitch to give Auburn the lead. And then he's out in right field. Tennessee hits it to him, and he throws out a runner, like the tying run at home plate. All of that was like in a 2-inning span. Like, the amount of players that have an impact on a game the way that he does, it's a super small list. So, like, I see why he's a projected top 10 pick, first-round pick. like I wouldn't be blown away if he spends a decade in the
No,
big league.
yeah,
I don't
or
think he's a
more.
catcher. I mean, I could see him being like a third or fourth outfielder. Not
Yeah.
saying he's going to have a Hall of Fame career or anything like that. We'll see. But like that guy plays winning baseball and he impacts the game in so many ways.
I don't think he's going to win it, and Krusty is got the guy that might get it. Beheval Aloy. I'll have
Yeah,
to see what
he's
the stats
I mean,
are.
if he wins player of the year, like
Yeah,
no debate here.
yeah, and I think the other guy we've talked about too. Oh, good grief, Texas's catcher, Ryan Galvin. I don't know why I went blank on
Yeah.
his name. That's another guy. But I mean, hey, remember Irish had a shoulder injury and missed what
Couple
week
weeks.
and a half, 2 weeks, and I think that had he not been hitting before that either. I mean, he hadn't been a zero, but he wasn't hitting like he is now. Makes you wonder, like, if you could go over and start it over and give him those weeks with health, what would it look like? It
Yeah.
might be a little bit more competitive conversation, but like if you're saying right now, who's the last guy you want to face in the batter's box? He's got to be on the really short list of guys in that conversation. I mean, that ball that he hit Friday night off Liam Doyle, I mean, it is pouring rain.
Yes.
And 8 times out of 10, nobody's touching Liam Doyle. And the other 2 times, it's not like you're hitting him super hard for the most part. It's just he's walking guys and giving them up.
Yeah.
And he hits a bomb to the alley in center.
Now,
I know there's been a little bit of that ball.
right.
That ball left the yard. I've watched it on replay and slowed it down. It left the yard. But, I mean, my goodness, that set the tone for the weekend.
Yeah. Like everybody's saying names in the chat, like, yeah, we're in the SEC, like, yeah, there's studs all over the place. But to me, like, you know it when you see it. I've seen him play in person a handful of times this year. Like with him, it's just different compared to everybody else. Like, yeah, the Aloy brothers are awesome. We've seen Bear Jones in the chat. Like, yeah, he's a stud too. But I'm telling, like, I was watching the game live when Ike Irish, like he essentially for 2 innings, he essentially just put Auburn on his back and he was doing everything offensively and defensively.
I know freshman of the year is going to be Derek Curiel at LSU, and deservedly so. But, man, the guy that ought to be runner-up, I think, is Chase Freilich. Because they've been able to trust Freilich behind the plate and let Irish play right.
Well, and the big thing, Chris,
yeah.
like that wasn't their game plan going into
I know.
the year.
Butch
Like,
told us they want to catch him, that he's improved, and we think he's our catcher.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, how many times did he tell us that Ike Irish earned it?
Yeah,
catching this year. Like he was going to call the pitches, like he was going to do all that, and then that injury changed everything.
And I'm wondering, was that his right shoulder?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do think it was his throwing arm.
Well, I mean, especially if it's his throwing, even if it's not his throwing arm, I mean, you could take a foul ball off the shoulder or any number of things like, where you wouldn't want to put a guy with that much at stake, not just for what he's going to go through in June in the draft, but also you as a team because you want his bat in the lineup. So I don't know how much that's part of it. But anyway, point is, Chase Freilich has been a dude too. And I think Deacon might be – I might push back on that a little bit because Easton Carmichael is really, really good too. By the way, he hit a couple of home runs in the game this weekend for Oklahoma. He's tremendous. But, I mean, that's a great conversation because there's a lot of good guys behind the plate this year in the league.
Yeah, and the one nobody's talking about right now is Foley at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Like the last 14 days, he's hit 9 home runs.
Gosh. And got one this weekend in the game that they won.
Yeah. Today. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The chat is really hopping tonight. So there's going to be a lot of good questions and good comments that we don't get to. Our apologies. That's not our intention. It's just when you're talking about everybody, and these are coming that quickly. Now, I'll tell you what, if you do a super chat, I promise you we will read it, unless it's profane or something like that. And that also helps the channel out. Quinn's been great about that. Quinn, that's your third one of the night. Thank you. And he's right. Chris Rembert has been, and Quinn, you might have missed it when I was doing the opening monologue by myself. I did mention him. He has been really, really good. And in a non-Derek Curiel year, would probably be in that discussion too.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Let me answer some of these before we dive into something else. Here's an easy one. I think everybody can agree on. Do we think Auburn will host a regional, maybe a super regional? Yes. Next question.
I will maybe at the end of the show, I'll do the rundowns and give you kind of my quick take. We'll do a regional projection, I think, on Tuesday, and we'll do it live. And I'm going to add some twists to it. I'm going to do I think I'm going to do teams that are locks, like without needing to win one more game, teams that are locks to host regionals, teams that are close, and fill in some of the details. Because right now, a regional projection is kind of useless, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about it. We still got 3 full weeks of baseball to play. So I mean, they're fun. Fans like them. You like to think ahead and see who's regional might my team be in. But I think the value is in the stuff under the hood, and we'll get to that this week. But I will give you on the way out some quick takes on where I think teams are.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
let's see.
When do we want to have the umpire conversation?
And Quinn's right. Auburn is a top 8 national seed right now. Let's postpone the umpire conversation for a little bit, because I want to talk about some other teams that did some stuff.
Okay.
A&M, the way that it handled LSU, I thought was super impressive. By the way, shout out to Anthony Einson for throwing a complete game in LSU's only win. Doing that anywhere is not easy. Doing that against that lineup is really not easy. But A&M, man, they're coming. Weston Moss has been good. I think was he the guy that threw 3 scoreless today? I think it was him.
He was lights out. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got a couple of guys in their bullpen now that have been really good. Prager was good this weekend. I think Lampkin was pretty good in defeat. He just pitched against Einson. And they started Miles Patton today. I think it was okay. It was pretty good. And you know who's really been hitting? Ben Royo. That guy had a couple of big hits this weekend, got a big home run. And Caden Sorrell, and don't forget, when we talk about A&M's slow start to the season, Sorrell missed, the first 6 weeks? 7, 8 weeks, whatever it was. It wasn't 7 or 8, but I think it was 6. I mean, he had the big one for them today, the go-ahead home run, I believe. And I think that was off of Zach Cowan, who'd been untouchable.
Yeah, it was.
So, now the bad news for A&M, what are they, 10-13?
It's a math problem the rest of the way. I still think they're going to make it. But they got a brutal final 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've got
Georgia.
Well, guess who else?
So was it LSU or
no? It's Missouri.
Okay, yeah,
they got Missouri next. So that's your 3 games to get to 13. I mean,
yeah.
A&M can basically clinch an NCAA tournament bid next weekend.
Yes. So yeah, give them the 3. It depends on where they're playing Georgia. To me, Georgia isn't one of those teams where they play. So yeah, I saw that too. So it's the goggles, right? I got to see it firsthand like a couple of weeks ago. So hey, whatever works. He's been incredible the past month and a half.
It's Sam Dutton for people who don't know. I think most people know, but he's been pitcher of the year has been a beauty contest. I think it's probable, with apologies to some LSU guys, I think it's probably Liam Doyle, Kyson Witherspoon, or Dutton, depending on how they finish. I may be leaving someone out.
Options, lots of options.
Yeah. thoughts on Arkansas's lineup and pitching. We hit some of that earlier. One thing that I think we're both impressed with is just their ability to keep finding guys like Robinette and Carson Bowles when you got injuries to the TCU transfer. Name escapes me. Logan Maxwell.
Yeah.
Him and now Souza at second, which that's a place they really didn't really need to lose a second baseman. Kozel's been fine, but he's bad over defense at this point. And Josh brings up the strike zone for Dutton. We'll get into the umpiring thing in a bit because that was a point of conversation this weekend, and I think for some good reasons. Quinn, thank you. That's Quinn's 5th super chat tonight. Thank you, Quinn. Sam Dutton is the best pitcher right now, and I can't stand Doyle. Liam Doyle, probably lucky he pitched out of the pen today because I think it's a 2-game suspension.
Yeah,
and I think if he were the starting pitcher, it would have been 4.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen is he'll miss their midweek game, which will be against.
It doesn't matter. He wasn't going to pitch anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, with Indiana State. I mean, I guess if it goes 18 innings and you need a guy to close it out, maybe. And so I guess he'll miss the opener against Vandy, which just means they'll pitch him in the 2 spot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I would think.
Well, it won't impact him this weekend.
Yeah. But had he not pitched out of the pen, it would have been a 4-game suspension, I believe.
Correct. To me, what makes Dutton so special, he's mid-90s with his fastball, and you just don't see a lot of guys in this league at this point in their careers have curveballs that are 12-6, and that's what he is. So he's going from 95 to about 67 with that curveball, and if he's pitching against a lefty. Like they are really having issues picking it up.
Yeah. Blake just texted me a minute ago. I think we got a little surprise coming for some of you guys, so stick around. This will be kind of cool. Sent you a PM quickly. Thank you. A couple of you have purchased memberships. We're going to start doing some members only content, and 5 of you just got memberships. I don't know who they went to. Actually, 10 of you just got memberships. They are awarded at random. If you didn't get one, it's $3 a month. It's a way to support what we do, and we're going to be doing some bonus content for members only starting very soon. Meant to do it this week. We just didn't. Oh, okay. Josh got a correction. That's right. He got kicked out in game 2 today. I was thinking that was game 3, but it was game 2. So he'll miss the midweek, and he will open against Vandy. So never mind. I mean, he was going to pitch against Vanderbilt either way.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It was hard to keep track. I felt like most of the series this weekend were impacted by weather.
Yeah, this was hard to follow. Really hard to follow.
Yeah, I felt like the only one that wasn't Ole Miss, Oklahoma, like they had 0 weather issues, and I'm sure somebody else, but like State, Kentucky, we haven't touched on them yet. Like they were impacted. Florida, South Carolina, obviously Tennessee, Auburn. It was an eventful weekend to say the least.
I think, let's see, who played on like Vanderbilt, Alabama got pushed back in game 1, but they played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think Georgia played its 3 games as scheduled.
Yeah,
and
Georgia.
Somebody else. That was about it, other than Oklahoma.
Yeah. Who's the SEC Coach of the Year? Deacon J. I can tell you who's in the conversation.
Okay, I want to hear your take.
Conversation. Schlossnagle. Butch Thompson.
Yep.
Mike Bianco.
Those would probably be my first 3. I think Tim Corbin could be making a sneaky case to get on the list, but I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna pass those first 3.
The difference with Corbin, like he's been doing it for so long, So
Yeah.
like everybody's kind of has that, but like everybody knows, okay, he's been there forever. He's won at a high level. It's kind of like Michael Jordan. He couldn't win the MVP every year.
Yeah.
It's similar to that.
I mean, I think there's a lot, like Rob Vaughn's done a great job at Alabama. I got to see them in person today. They're better than I thought watching them in person. Their bullpen kind of blew it this weekend. And we'll talk about that's one series we haven't talked about is Vandy, Alabama. We'll get to that one in a
Yeah.
minute. I mean, Van Horn's done a terrific job. I think Kevin O'Sullivan's done a great job with the injuries. I mean, Wes Johnson's year 2. Georgia's number
Yeah.
1 on the RPI.
I think Van Horn is in the same category as Corbin. Like, yeah, they could win that award every other year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that are doing really good jobs under the radar. Yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing with Texas, though. I know it's Texas. They've got the best history and tradition, going back to when each team first played a baseball game of anybody in the league, with apologies to LSU. Texas has won more College World Series than anybody currently in this league. But I mean, the Spencer injury, and that's another little storyline out of this weekend. I wonder if some of that's catching up to Texas eventually. You don't lose a guy like a Jared Spencer and a Max Ballou and just usually be okay. I mean, they've made it look easy so far. It didn't really affect them in performance. Maybe this is the weekend that caught up with them. But I think that's the thing. And I get it. Butch Thompson in any other year would probably be the guy right now. But, and I know, again, Texas is Texas. I get it. Everybody thinks you should win at Texas, and you should. Historically speaking, you should. But I don't care who you are. You lose 2 guys like that, you lose your number 1 starter and your best hitter. And for them to run off 19-2 to start the year, crazy.
Nobody had that coming. Like,
No.
nobody. And again, like, I do want to see what they look like on the road, but in the grand scheme of things, like, I don't think it's going to matter just because they're going to host a regional and potentially a super regional.
Let's see. Series we have not talked about, and we will get to all these. Let me just pull up the standings so I make sure we don't miss anybody. Let's see. We hit Arkansas, Texas. We hit Auburn, Tennessee. We hit LSU A&M for a bit. We touched on Oklahoma, Ole Miss. We sort of touched on Alabama, Vandy. Florida, South Carolina, we touched on. Mississippi State, Kentucky, we touched on. Georgia, Missouri, we touched on. Which one do you want to go with next?
I guess, do you want to do Vandy? I mean, you got to be there in person, especially the crazy game today. So I would say either that or Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Yeah, well, let's do Vandy since we're there. J.D. Thompson was terrific on Friday night. Really, really good. And then Riley Quick on Saturday. And that kind of went the way I thought it would. I thought that Thompson would probably outpitch Tyler Fay, who's kind of an opener, although he's been pretty good lately for them. Don't sleep on Alabama, because if you get what you got out of Zane Adams today and you get what you got out of Riley Quick yesterday, that's a team that can win and get to Omaha. I really think, because that lineup's pretty tough. Adams looked good today. Vanderbilt was not getting good swings off him. And then the bullpen just collapsed. And they brought Carson Osmer in at the end of the game, and he's been kind of a shutdown guy. But it's done kind of off arm angle, and it's not 98 blow it by you. And they threw him yesterday to close that one out. And I think some of those guys seeing him again for a second time caught up to them. They threw, oh man, who was the guy that it fell apart on? That kind of opened the door. I mean, to set the stage, Alabama is up 7-2 with 2 outs in the 8th and nobody on. And Vanderbilt gets a home run from Braden Holcomb. It gets a 2-run bomb from, who was it? Cam Barcy, their catcher. And that was off And I think they pitched Braylon Myers yesterday too, which, boy, you could have used him in that spot today. They pitched Hagen Banks, who's been pretty effective, and we haven't really talked about him a lot. And Banks is one of those guys that's 88, 89. It's high spin, and it's pretty tough to hit. But after they got a couple of looks at him, the wind was blowing out to right. They got a couple. Man, they get back to 7-5. Brody Johnson hits a double to tie it in the ninth, and Holcomb hits one to right center to win it off Hosmer. In between, I thought the starting pitching was the story of the weekend. Thompson was good for Vandy. Somebody finally hit Connor Fennell. Rob Vaughn figured out a strategy that worked with him a little bit. I'll be interested to see if teams copy and paste it. They were stepping out of the box until about
Eyes
12
down.
or 13 seconds, eyes down, and then lock in. They really slowed him down. I thought he lost his command and his rhythm the middle innings, and he paid for it. They hit a couple bombs off him. And Vanderbilt's bullpen after him really wasn't good, but it was good enough. And that's a big win for Vandy. We talked about Auburn. If you end it today being a national seed, I think Vanderbilt would have to be too.
I do too, and they got a chance to add to their resume. They got Tennessee coming up, right? And then I can't remember who the other one is.
Yeah.
So, like that, I mean, I say that because,
Kentucky.
neither one of those are RPI bombs by any means. So they will very clearly have a chance to be a national seed.
Yeah. I think for Alabama, Garrett Staten hit an absolute bomb off of Connor Fennell. I mean, he got all of it the second it left the bat unit was leaving. I'd forgotten they'd kind of been playing without him for a while. Like their lineup, when you look at them, and LeBron to me he was not driving the ball this weekend. I don't think he's homered, and unless I've missed it, 14 or 15 games now. It's got it. That hand or whatever's bothering him's got to be a factor.
Earlier, somebody asked that and was mentioning it. So, I mean, if other people are noticing it, and again, he has not been on the injury report at all, and this is like us not reporting anything at all. But I am curious, health wise, like what percentage he is.
Yeah,
because it's been different than what he looked like the first month.
Yeah, Cade Snell, a guy we don't talk enough about. Of that dude is a hitter. Like even when you get him out, he's fouling off pitches he's making you pay. Bryce Fowler. I mean that lineup, man. If they, I hope LeBron. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he gets back. I hope I'm either wrong or hope if I'm right that he gets closer to 100%. Because man, he was a National Player of the Year type guy. Until he got hurt. He struggled in the field a little bit this weekend too. A couple plays I think he would normally make, he didn't make. Maybe he's pressing a little bit when he's not hitting the way he was. Will Hodo hit one today. He'd been kind of cold a while. Colburn Mizell hit the ball well for him this weekend. They've got 7-8 guys in that lineup that can hit. I think to me, you got to get Hosmer back on track. But if you get good starts out of Adams and Quick, they're good enough to piece it together and win a regional with the rest of their guys.
They are, but my question with them, and I don't know who they got the final 2 weeks, but like Chris, how do they bounce back? I mean,
they'll be fine.
I mean, who you say that, but that's easier said than done. Like they are pitches away from taking 2 out of 3 on the road against a ranked team. And like you got the lead, you got your stud closer on the mound who leads the conference in saves, and it's his worst outing of the season. 2/3 of an inning. It's his first loss of the season. He gave up 4 runs. So like a Rob Vaughn team doesn't strike me as a team that's just going to like roll over and like just give up. But I do want to see what they look like moving forward because that is a gut punch of all gut punches.
Well, I mean, those guys they're tougher than we are. Baseball players don't. I just don't think they process it like we do watching it. I mean, look, Auburn got walked off in game 1 today by Tennessee. Came back and just shoved in the second game 30 minutes later.
There was a lot going on though. That was a weird series with so many different things going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to the umpiring. I want to see who else. Where do you want to go next? Because we still got several.
We've got like a handful of super chats if you want to answer.
Oh, okay. I was so engrossed in this, I missed it. Let's see. Yeah, Texas been playing number one strength. Hasn't been playing number one strength. He's right. Oh, it's never really easy. Tennessee back on track, sweeping Vandy next week. Bookmark me, Josh. Wouldn't be surprised if you're wrong. Tennessee's due to play better. That's always a tough place for Vandy. We didn't talk Vandy. We focused on Alabama. Braden Holcomb hitting the ball the way he's hitting. Lack of power has been their issue, and R.J. Austin's been slumping. Austin got a home run in game one, hit the ball better in game two. Wasn't as good today, but like if you get R.J. Austin back to being R.J. Austin, and Holcomb becomes the middle of the order guy who could give you 20 bombs in a season, he's not going to get there, but he's starting to hit home runs about every weekend. They become a tougher out.
4 home runs today, a team that's dead last in that area. You were there, but how much of that is like they got a hold of it versus the wind? You said it was pretty windy.
Gosh. The last inning, the wind quit blowing. So I think that Hulk, unless it picked up again, I think he got that one on his own. The 2 in the 8th definitely had a little bit of help. I'm not saying they don't leave the ballpark, but it would have been a lot closer. I don't know, that one's kind of a blur. Like that game unfolded and changed direction so quickly. I mean, they scored 7 runs in what must have been, 20 minutes of clock time.
Yeah. So is Vandy, Tennessee this coming weekend?
Yes, it's in and it's in Knoxville.
So if you're a Tennessee fan, the good news is Vandy has been flip-flopping weekends. They win one, they lose one, they win one, they lose one. That's been their theme.
Yeah. Quinn says, Alabama collapsing in that game, things you love to see. Yeah, if you're Auburn, sure. I felt bad for Rob Vaughn. Those guys played a competitive series, and they were that close to coming out. I mean, they had a 2-run lead with 2 outs in the 9th. 7-run lead, a 5-run lead with 2 outs in the 8th, and had their money guy on the hill. Sometimes that just happens to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 7 runs the last 2 innings. That's tough.
7 runs over. Oh, well, it was really 3 outs because they never got a last out in the 9th. Let's see. What have we done now? Pick to finish 8th. Yeah, I think that's about where Texas was.
Middle of the pack, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that was about Texas.
Yeah, and people complaining about the schedule. Like, guys, Texas didn't make it, so you play the schedule that you're dealt. It just so happens to shake out that most of the good teams they played this season, it's come in Austin, and Texas is one of them all.
All right, let's see. We haven't talked Mississippi State because that's a big development too. I mean, State now is in the hunt to get a regional bid. I mean, hosting's going to be off the table.
Yeah, they're not going to host, but Chris, they got Mizzou, and then they got Ole Miss at home.
Yeah,
after a sweep this weekend. So for Mississippi State, Super Bulldog weekend, they played Ole Miss in softball in Starkville. They had this, and I know I keep talking about it. That dachshund race, Chris. Do you know how many they announced for that?
No.
People that showed up, 80,000 people was the announced attendance for that. Do I believe it? No, but that's what they announced. I looked it up. The most amount of people Starkville and Mississippi State has had for anything was in 2014 football when they were number 1 in the country, and they had 63,000 people at a football game. Do I think 80,000 people showed up to watch a bunch of weenie dogs race? Doubtful, but there were a lot of people there. So I was curious what this would look like because I knew the fans were going to make a point like, hey, we made a move, and then we're going to show everybody in the country that despite firing our coach, like we're going to rally around the program and we're going to show up. So they had the most amount of people in any college baseball game of anybody for one single game this weekend. They slightly edged out Arkansas for the most of any 3-game series so far this season in college baseball. I was really curious what they would look like, and boy, they just rallied. Like their defense has struggled. Their defense was good enough, and the difference is the bullpen. Their bullpen has really, really struggled here lately, but they were the difference this weekend in this series. So State's bullpen, 15 innings this weekend, 6 hits. They didn't give up a run, and they struck out 16. That's why they won this series.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like the things that had just been dreadful, their bullpen was really good this weekend. And the defense had been awful, but was it Bryce Chance? I think took a home run away from somebody today.
No, it was O'Brien. You talking about
was it Michael O'Brien?
The
Yeah,
catcher of the year. So he literally just came in, and that was like a pitch or two later, sent right to him. And yeah, if you didn't see it, it's up there with one of the catches of the year.
Yeah. Isn't that funny though? Like that. And this goes to show you, this is why you don't just give up and write off a team. We all thought that was like one of the worst matchups you could want. A Kentucky team that had hung with everybody, whether it won the series or not. Kentucky has been competitive pretty much in every conference game. And stylistically, there is nobody that I thought was more of a nightmare for Mississippi State the way that they play than Kentucky. Yes. And they go in and sweep. And look, maybe it's coincidence. Maybe that's how much they needed a change. But hats off to State, because State now, I think 14 and 16 will do it. I would think that 13 and 17 would, but they've got maybe the easiest schedule in the league. At least that's what I thought going into the season. They avoided Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Vandy. I think if you get down to that many bids for the league, the committee's going to start digging into who you beat and all that stuff. And that's where the easier part of the schedule. Look, nothing in the SEC is easy. But compared to what everybody else played, they had the easiest draw.
So how many?
The wild card is what if you drop one to Missouri? I mean, like, is 4 and 6 good enough? But what if you take the Missouri series and the Ole Miss series, which means you lose a game to Missouri?
Yeah, but
probably won't matter. But just asking.
What are they at right now? How many SEC wins?
They're 10 and 14.
So give them 5. They get in with 15.
Oh yes.
Oh, there you go. And so
if that less, and I think 14 probably gets it in. 13 is where I have the question.
And to me, that's why they made the change when they did. Like, let's say Lemonis is still there. They win the final 3 series. They go back to the NCAA tournament and make it to a regional. Is that enough to keep his job? I don't know, but that's why they made the change when they did. Their fans believe they deserve better.
Josh says, what is it? 8 teams now separated by 2 games or less. What he's talking about is that pack between 13 and 11 and 15 and 9, which includes in this order Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, Ole Miss.
Hold on, let me pull it up. I feel good about the majority of those teams making it, like having a really realistic shot of getting to Omaha. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. Teams I could see making it to Omaha: Texas, Arkansas, LSU, Georgia, Vandy, Auburn. And then I think teams that are like borderline: Ole Miss, Bama, Oklahoma, Tennessee.
Honest to God, I mean, this is going to sound hyperbolic, but if the league got 14 teams in, all you got to do is have 2 good weekends in a row, Graham. I could see any of them doing it. The state might be the one that's the hardest to imagine with the defensive and the bullpen issues. But let's say they figured something out this weekend, then why not, right?
Josh Carter, bookmark Graham. I mean, Josh, I think you would agree. Like Tennessee hasn't played up to their ability the past
No.
5. Like, can they make it to Omaha? Absolutely. But
All right,
they're just
let's have a Tennessee conversation. Um,
jeez.
I go to church with a friend, this big Tennessee guy. We were talking Tennessee baseball this morning. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "To me, Tennessee is like a jigsaw puzzle, and Tennessee might arguably have more pieces than anybody." Now, I think that's highly debatable. I don't know that I'd rank Tennessee one on that list, but they're in the conversation. They're on a top 5 list of who's got as many talented pieces as anybody in the country. Agreed?
Without a doubt.
But I think their problem is like there's some pieces. I don't know about in the very middle of the picture, but close enough to it that I don't know. Like it's like they got 3 extra pieces of something on the corner, right? But some of the pieces that go to complete the puzzle are missing, and I'm talking defense and relief pitching, and maybe just even the keeping your cool part. I mean, Liam Doyle got ejected for a needless thing today. I've said all along, in Arkansas is your perfect proof of this, right? Because Arkansas lost 3 straight series. People were panicking, and then you had the injuries. And Arkansas was good enough to just flatten Texas this weekend. Tennessee could do that. Like Tennessee could, you know, we could be talking 2 weeks from now. They could have swept Vandy, and then they got what? Arkansas. They're good enough to go to Arkansas and win that series. And we may just say this was much ado about nothing, but as we're sitting here talking, and they have now lost what 3 straight series at home, where they used to be invincible. And throwing a road loss to LSU in the middle of that. And frankly, they weren't super impressive at South Carolina if you want to go back a little bit. I mean, their best ball of the year was against Florida. And people could say, well, Florida wasn't that good since. Well, at that point in time, Florida was still pretty healthy. And I remember we circled that as a series, like we want to watch that one because that could be a war. Oh, and they went to Alabama the next weekend too. And cooled off a really hot Alabama team that I thought matched up well with them and had a chance at home. But man, since that A&M series, we haven't been seeing the same team, and I think they've got. Are they good enough to overcome it just by hitting bombs and riding Doyle and Phillips to wherever that'll go? Yeah, they are. But like the fielding stuff, man, it happened again this weekend. They couldn't field a pop-up from third. I think they botched a ground ball at one point in that series. They got some good guys in the outfield. Hunter Inslee can make up for a lot of mistakes. I'm not saying they – and I like Cannon Peoples. My God, that guy's got a lot on him too. And I've seen him throw some seeds to get them out of innings.
Mm-hmm.
But when your left side of the infield and, is not playing well – and you're putting that much pressure on your catcher, you have seen them crack. And in this league, the other teams are good enough that they can expose you, and we've seen it lately. And their bullpen's not been good. Like Nate Snead got hit hard today, and got hit hard last week.
Mm-hmm. Josh, to answer your questions, I watched the majority of games 1 and game 2. I didn't see anything today because their game started the same time my game did.
Yeah.
So here's to me what makes Tennessee unique. And I watched Tony Vitello's post-game press conference. He spoke for about 10 and a half minutes after this game. So to me, it seems like culture is a big deal for him in this program, as it is at a lot of places. To me, Tennessee is the rare team where they have like stud freshmen and they have guys that have been there for a while, but then some of their better players are like transfers in. So you got guys like Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher who were on their third different stop. And like, this is the most meaningful baseball that they have played. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, they were not playing meaningful baseball a year ago at Ole Miss. Doyle was not playing meaningful baseball at Coastal Carolina. Same with Fisher at Duke. So like this is a learning experience for them, and I think that Tony Vitello is just trying to figure this out. Like, what works with this group when he has all these different pieces, and what doesn't work. Will he figure it out? I'm sure he will, but we got 2 weeks left. He's forgotten more baseball than I will ever know, but it just seems like he's been extremely frustrated because Tennessee has not been playing well the past 4 to 5 weeks now. And I think we saw a lot of that this weekend. Like, he gets tossed and ejected from this game today. First time that he's been tossed in 2 years. And like, after the game, one of the things that he's touching about is like the culture and just playing with emotion. And like, you have to channel good emotion. And like, again, you got all these pieces, and this is all new to the freshmen and to like a lot of the transfers that they lean on. It's like, can they figure it out? We got plenty of time, but time's starting to run out. We got 2 weeks here. And this is the difference between playing at home for a regional and super regional, or like having to go on the road and figuring it out. And to me, like, Tennessee has the potential to where they could play somebody on the moon, and I would take them. Like, they won the series in Oxford, but like, again, it hasn't been a kind 4 to 5 weeks for Tennessee, and it's rare because they hardly ever look like this for this amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I would still not be shocked if Tennessee won the College World Series.
Me either.
Yeah, I mean, because you throw, if you play it right, you got enough hitters, and they're not all hitting. That I think the bottom half of their order might be another discussion right now. They got a lot of talented guys, but a lot of those guys are really young, right? Like Jay Abernathy, Chris Newstrom, Levi Clark, really talented players. Manny Marin, but sometimes as a freshman, you hit those midweek and early season teams that you're overmatching, which Tennessee did, and then you run into Sam Dutton or Kyson Witherspoon, or name any one of 24 guys, and it's a different ball game. And I feel like, that's maybe some of their supporting parts. But back to the emotion thing. When I saw Liam Doyle do what he did, I thought that is a guy trying to bring some life into his team, and he did. But like, even when they do that, they kind of botched it today, to where he got himself a suspension. I mean, you could have pulled up a little short of that, made your point, and not gotten ejected. And is it going to cost him? No. Not really, because, he's not going to pitch in the midweek, and he wasn't probably going to pitch in game 3 today. I guess they could have brought him out of the pen to close, but I don't think so, because he probably threw enough pitches in his appearance. But that's what I'm saying. I think I know what he was trying to do, but that's the line with them, and you saw it in 2022, where sometimes it will run too hot, and it kind of costs them against Notre Dame in that Super that year. And I see a lot of that team in this one, but I think 22 is more talented than this one. And they're both supremely talented. Don't get me wrong. This one could have 4 first-round picks, but they have got some definite parts. Like, if you could make some trades, you might package off one of those middle infielders, with the bat for a glove somewhere, or a lights out closer or something.
One point I do want to make for Tennessee, and like, we haven't touched on it at all. I do think it's now becoming a trend. Like, whoever makes a deep run in Omaha and either wins the national championship or plays for the national championship, like the following season, it takes a little bit. Like Mississippi State, they didn't make the tournament for 2 years. Ole Miss hasn't made the tournament for 2 years. We saw what happened with LSU after they won the Natty. So, like, not saying that Tennessee is going to miss the tournament or anything like that, but like, baseball is one of the few sports where it doesn't have a general manager, and like the support staff is so small compared to like what football and basketball has. Like you're starting to see, like it's pretty standard now where football teams have a general manager, and now men's basketball teams are really starting to go that direction. Like it impacts baseball more because you got the head coaches and the coaching staff. They literally do everything. Like they have to manage the salary cap, they have to recruit, deal with the portal, like maintain your guys on your own team, try to bring new guys. Like it's so much happening at once. And if you're playing for the whole thing, like you're behind everybody else. I do think that's a trend. And we've seen that for now 3 years in a row with the last three national championships. We'll find out what happens with Tennessee, but I do think that's a part of it. Yes, Tennessee. You're muted, Chris. But yes, Tennessee is way better than those three teams following their national championship seasons. But I do think that plays a part in it.
Yeah, look, he's reloading at this point, right? They lost so much off last year's team. You know, they did bring back Snead and some other key guys in Inslee, but I mean, he hit the portal and landed some dudes right away. That's hard to do when you play to the last day. You know, and not only the last team standing in Omaha, but you played a 3-game series at a time where every day, you know, probably costs you in the portal. So I mean, he's right about that. Two other things. No, well, Josh, what I was saying, yeah, he did. He shoved. Who did he shove? The base runner there, and it cut to commercial, so we didn't see the rest of it. You could have just made the play, screamed at the heavens, and let it be that. So, the other thing he said, and I look, Sam Dutton at times is a great pitcher. But when you're getting the strike zone the size of a Volkswagen, I'm exaggerating, but like he was getting stuff on the corners that you don't see get called. And I saw some wild umpiring stuff this weekend, not just with the rain stuff, like the strike zone at Vandy, Alabama today. I couldn't figure it out for either team.
Same with A&M and LSU.
Yeah, neither could Rob Vaughn, neither could Tim Corbin. I didn't get to see much of A&M and LSU.
It was bad.
I don't know what happened with the umpiring this weekend. Like we had that whole discussion about starting games, but like there was a crew in Nashville today. Like I don't know who any of these guys are. I don't what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Also, Josh, the ejection part of it. So this is one of the things that Tony Vitello was asked about post game. It had Tony's words were it had nothing to do with the show or like the tag, whatever you want to call it. Liam said something to the Auburn base runner. Whatever he said, umpire had a great view of it. That's what got him tossed.
Okay.
And he was the only one. Nobody for Auburn got tossed. I think that led to a lot of the frustration, and we saw that in the next game with Tony Vitello.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. There's been some under-the-radar stuff. Josh asked if there's a league breaking new umpires. They were having a little bit of a midweek umpiring crisis a couple of years ago with some pretty bad calls in midweek games by probably some guys that shouldn't be umping. This is semi-informed, by the way, not just me throwing it out there. So I don't know what happened this weekend. I think the umps in this league generally do a pretty good job. You will see a strike zone that sometimes is a little erratic, but at least you kind of know for the most part what it is. Okay, this guy's going to give you the low strike, whatever that looks like. A lot of these guys have a zone. It may not be exactly correlated with what the zone in the book is, but at least you can figure it out. I think we watched some games this weekend. We couldn't figure out what the zone was, and that is an issue.
Yeah, just the lack of consistency both ways. So I guess like the options on the table are you go to robot umpires. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point, especially in college. And then the other option is make them full time. Again, an option I don't think we'll ever get to. Like a lot of these umpires, this is like a part-time seasonal gig for them. And yes, midweek games are normally like umpires in the region, like whatever part of the country you're in. Like you're not gonna fly somebody in that lives like a long way away for a midweek game. So normally your umpires for midweek or regional, and then there's a rotation for the weekend. And to me, it seems like what college umpires what they struggle with is the high strike zone. Like if you watch
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball, that's a strike that gets called pretty consistently, the high strike. In college, they miss that one all the time. And then this weekend, it just seemed like in a variety of games, they were missing the outside part of the plate. I mean, like
Yeah.
if you saw Michael Early losing his mind in the LSU series, like they had an overhead view of a pitch that was called a strike for LSU, a strikeout. I mean, Chris, it was in the other side of it was a righty at the plate for A&M, and the ball was in the other batter's
Man.
box, and it was called a strikeout. And Early's losing his mind. And like, we see it because we have the bird's eye view on the replay, but again, this is part of the human element. And I mean, yeah, it was not a good weekend for the umpires. I don't have an answer. I don't know how you fix it. But again, this is what you get at the collegiate level. You get it in football, you get it in
Yep.
basketball a ton. And then you get it obviously in baseball.
Is a tangent. I wish they'd bring back the high strike. Lower part of the letters ought to be a strike, man.
Yeah,
You're
and
putting too
again,
much burden on the pitchers.
if you watch Major League Baseball, it's called all the time, and it's not in college baseball.
Hmm. Well, it wasn't in the bigs for a while too.
Well, that's been a point of emphasis in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Well,
But plus, like
good.
those guys, like Major League umpires, like they literally get graded like after games. Like they see how many they got correct, how many they missed, and if you missed like a certain amount, guess what? You're not doing. You're not going to be an umpire for very much
Yeah.
longer, and that doesn't happen in college. It just doesn't.
We talked about the rain thing Friday. And I get it's the home team's call, and I understand why it's the home team's call, and it's the umpire's job to overrule it. I just think that's still putting a lot. I don't know. I still feel like there ought to be a better system where the umpires can get together. They can consult with somebody in the press box who's watching the radar. They can call Birmingham and say, "Hey, look," and give make it like court. Give each team, okay, here's what we think should happen. Here's Tennessee's side. Here's Auburn's side. Pick your teams.
Mm-hmm.
But settle it somewhere else, man. I just don't think that's a good system.
Yeah, it'll be something to watch for sure because it's impacted. This is 2 weekends in a row where it's impacted series. One thing I was stunned about going back to this Tennessee series, like nobody asked in the Tennessee media, nobody asked Tony Vitello after the game, like, what happened. I'm sure I'm not the only one that was like, what in the world happened there? Like, how do you start, stop, all that, and potentially burn Doyle? Like,
Yeah.
not saying he messed up, like just curious, like what in the world happened? And like nobody even addressed it.
So let's see. Well, I'll tell you what. And I've been the guy asking questions. When a lot of baseball happens, sometimes you just forget, and maybe you should write it down and ask. But I mean, let's see. That series was so disjointed. Friday never really got off the ground. You played Saturday. You played one game. You played two games. You were almost done with the second game, and then that one got called. So they picked up this morning and finished that one, and then had the 7-inning gamer. Like, you should have had a normal press conference setting Friday night and again Saturday night, and you never really did. And I mean, like somebody should have asked him. I agree. Maybe Josh says the Tennessee media sucks. I don't really agree with that. I know some of them. There's a lot of good dudes on that beat. Maybe they just forgot and all that. But yeah, I would have. Someone should have asked that.
I don't know. It just seemed weird. Like you can tell It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. Again, it's 10.5 minutes. Tony Vitello is just frustrated. I mean, like at one point he was touching on the fans, like he was upset about the fans. I don't know how you can be mad at the fans not being there when you start and stop so much and the weather is awful. Like I don't get that at all. And then at some point, like we gotta like what's going on with Russell? Like what's his deal?
Yeah. Well, his deal was he lost it pretty quickly today. I was listening to the audio of that driving to Vandy, Alabama, and they said his velo dropped. What he got pulled in inning 3? Was it 3 or 2? I think it was inning 3. But they said his fastball had been sitting, oh man, maybe 96ish, and it was 92, 95. I'm making those numbers up, but the TV guys made a point to say, hey, his velo has dipped this inning. And he started getting hit. And what made it worse is they went and teed off on Liam Doyle. I mean, I didn't see it because I was listening to the audio, but like you could hear when the ball was struck, like that ball was smoked. They were getting some licks. And that's another thing with Tennessee. I didn't expect that from Snead. He's been so good and so consistent. Man, the last 2 weekends, he has gotten lit up.
Yeah, this is without a doubt the most adversity they've had in a long time. I mean, would you agree under Tony? Like, this has very rarely happened.
Okay, 2013 they had adversity. Not 2013. 2023 they had adversity. That was the year they got the tough part. I remember this now. They got the tough part of the schedule. They're coming off 2022 and all those guys graduate. Jordan Beck and that bunch. Dolander, they all not all of them, but most of them leave. So they're rebuilding. That was the Maui Ahuna team. I think they had some chemistry issues. And that's the year that on top of that, they got the rough end of the schedule. Well, they picked it up mid-season, started winning some games, ended up getting Omaha. So they went through a patch then where I remember at the time, and I remember doing some Knoxville radio with Tony Basilio. Like they thought they were dead and buried mid-season. They ended up making it to Omaha. It didn't do a lot of damage there, but making it's an accomplishment, right? Last year was a juggernaut. You know, they win the whole thing. You go back before that.
Super Regionals 2022.
Well, okay. Yeah, that was a mess. Notre Dame, I mean, that series there was a lot going on there. But I mean, it's been a pretty free and easy path for them. I don't say that like casually, like they were good ball players. He found good ball players. He made it happen. But they haven't been in this spot in a bit. You're right.
Yeah. So obviously, like when they play to their potential, they can beat anybody. I think it's fair to say defensively, like this just isn't going to be what they're known for. This group this season. I mean, you touched on it. Like they had a routine pop out on the infield, and luckily for them, like it landed fair, then it just spun foul. Yeah. And like just nobody communicated. So I mean, I think we got a sample size enough now. Like defensively, this is one of their Achilles heel.
Well, here's the other thing. How much do we trust their pitching at this point? I mean, I trust Doyle anytime he's out there at this point. Phillips has been pretty good since Kentucky, did the Kentucky Derby against him that weekend. He's still not great at holding runners, but he fields his position pretty well. I mean, they've bunted on him. He's done those. He's handled that part well. Like, Marcus Phillips pitched pretty well the last couple of weekends since Kentucky did its thing. Man, other than that, I would have said, hey, we've counted on A.J. Russell as the guy they've had in tow. And I thought, okay, they're going to ease him in. Their bullpen's been pitching well. He's a luxury at this point. Well, he's not pitching well, and their bullpen's not pitching well. And now I think they got an issue there too, maybe.
Yeah.
This we're talking A.J. Russell and Snead and some really talented guys. that are going to get drafted and going to get 6-figure, maybe 7-figure bonuses. So they've got the talent to figure it out. It's not like guys were, these guys are not anonymous. But right now it's an issue.
The game they won was clutch, though. I mean, I was watching live when they got the home run in the ninth to tie it, and then the bottom just fell out. And then, we went to extras and they had to pause it until the next day. So that was a clutch hit. And then to come back with Doyle and, to walk it off in 11, that's what they can be. They show flashes where they're tough mentally and they can beat anybody. And then other times, it's just, I see why Tony Vitello's frustrated and just trying to figure it out with this group this season.
Okay, we haven't talked Georgia, Missouri. I don't really know what to take away from that. And we talked a little bit of Oklahoma and Ole Miss. Have we missed anything? I'm going to get into standings and races and hosting and all that stuff before we end the show. But what else on the field do we need to get into?
Well, I think Georgia, it did not look pretty this weekend.
No.
I mean, they were on the ropes a couple times, but hey, they did what they needed to do, and they get 3 SEC wins on the road. But to me, they're one of the teams that matters where they play. In Athens, they're really, really tough. They struggle. It seems they struggle when they're away from Athens. And then for Ole Miss and Oklahoma, Chris, Oklahoma only scored 10 runs all weekend, and they won the series.
See, I think if you're Ole Miss, you've got to be kind of encouraged about the pitching you got this weekend.
Well, especially Morris was really, really good today. The pitching was good. Again, Ole Miss only gave up the 10 runs. Now, offensively, Ole Miss went through a cold stretch. Ole Miss did not score any runs in over 20 innings. That's going back last weekend, though. So, but again, chalk that up to a lot of that is Kyson Witherspoon. Everybody knows how great he is. And then, game 2 pitching was really good for Oklahoma as well. So that was a series the Sooners really needed it. And they just seemed to play with a little bit more desperation. And they put themselves in a spot, depending on how they close. They still got Texas, they could host.
Yeah, I mean, Cade Crossland was really good for them. We've circled him, lefty, that when he's really good, Oklahoma's really tough to beat because Kyson Witherspoon's winning game 1 most of the time, even in this league. That's how good he is. So I think you got that today, or I guess yesterday. It's running together now. The Crossland Maddox start.
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Game 2, yeah.
Okay, and I think for Ole Miss, McCausland,
he was good. That was game 1.
Yeah, and Spencer too. You mentioned Morris. I think, yeah. So I mean, their bullpen's getting a little bit better in spots. They lost Jones, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. The thing with them, they lost Braden Jones. So they're going to have to find somebody to step up. So I don't know who that would be, but that's certainly a point of emphasis moving forward for Ole Miss. And Ole Miss has to finish strong. I mean, they got State on the road and then Auburn. So you're looking at potentially hosting to, depending on how the last 2 weeks shake out, we'll see. And to answer the question in the chat, why doesn't Georgia have any fans? Because they're called Atlanta Braves fans.
Yeah. There's a game going on. I need to check the score on that. Yeah, Crossland was really good. Malachi Witherspoon. It just hasn't pitched well in a while that I remember. I mean, Wes can tell. When was Malachi Witherspoon's last really good start? I feel like it's been a few weeks.
Yeah. See, I would not be surprised. Let's say Kyson gets drafted in the first round. That's not a far stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Malachi come back.
Yeah.
And potentially be the guy next season.
It depends on, I don't know. He's got enough time. I think he's still going to be a top. I could still see him getting picked in the top 5 rounds. And Oklahoma's not a school that's going to have a huge NIL budget, I don't think.
It just
Sunday, Missouri was a quality start. So, okay, there was that.
Yeah. But then he followed it up, but it's Missouri. So
right.
You got to take that. I don't know. he's going to have options, Malachi. So I am curious to see what he does because he could come back, be the dude next year. If he has a excellent season, like he could be a first round pick.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
like you said, his potential is off the charts that somebody could take him like in the top 4 or 5 rounds.
didn't
And
Skip call them both first round picks when we had him on
he
before the
did.
year?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Georgia, maybe Georgia was just bored this weekend.
That I
But
mean, there's
Georgia won. I mean, they won in Georgia fashion. They started hitting bombs late in games when it mattered, and Missouri couldn't counter.
and I didn't see the weather. Like I don't know how windy it was. That matters in that ballpark. That's one of the few ballparks in the league where it really does matter. Like I've broadcast several games there. Like when that wind's blowing in, it can be tough.
Was it cold at a lot of venues this weekend? I mean, I know it was rainy, but like Nashville today was in the 50s. Like it's never that cold in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah. Not in May. I mean,
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed like it was an eventful weekend. Like we're starting to get down to crunch time, high stakes, and just it was there was a lot going on. Umpires, ejections, like late rallies.
yeah. It was more eventful than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, here's your standings. I'm gonna go from the top. Do you have something else there? I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
Okay. Um, I think we've got. By the way, let's stick to baseball in the chat, please. This is the first. All right, conference standings. We got basically you've got a 2-team race now. I know Arkansas is 2 games behind Texas. Texas is 19-5, but Texas wins the head-to-head tiebreaker. I mean, I think they would crown co-champs, but that would be your SEC tournament seeding tiebreaker for whatever that's worth. Probably not much because neither of those teams is going to go to Hoover with much to play for. I mean, both of them. I think Texas could maybe lose out and get a national seed, and Arkansas is really close to that too. So Texas has got Florida at home, and then it goes to Oklahoma. Arkansas has LSU and Tennessee. So I still like Texas to win it. Georgia and LSU 15-9. Both those teams, I think you just probably win 1 or 2 more games in the conference you're hosting. Vandy and Tennessee 14-10. They play next weekend. Vanderbilt right now, strength of resume 2 coming into the day, 3 in the RPI. I think Vanderbilt right now, you end the season's got to be a national seed. I don't know what you do with Tennessee because the play has slipped, I know, and the RPI is 14, but it's still a pretty good team sheet, man. I mean, if I said to you, okay, forget who this is for better or worse. Your quad 1 record is what? 10-6. Your quad 2 is 7-5. That makes you 17-11 first 2 quads. I mean, that probably puts you top 10 or 11 in wins between quad 1 and 2, and you're what, 7 games above 500. 4-0 in quad 3, 16-0 in quad 4. So you could say, hey, they did a lot of the damage in quad 4, but they also didn't lose a game there either. I think Tennessee, look, if they oh gosh, I think they'll get Vandy next weekend because they've just dominated Vanderbilt in Lindsey Nelson lately. But Vanderbilt's a team that can match up with them in terms of bunting and running and doing some of the things that Kentucky did to give them trouble. So there is that. But let's just play along. Let's say Tennessee goes, let's say they take 2 out of 3 at Vandy and 1 out of 3 at Arkansas, which they could also get swept in Fayetteville. Although I don't think they're going to get swept because Doyle on Friday, he's been almost untouchable. Gosh, I still think, at that point 17 and 13. I mean, Vandy and Arkansas are going to hurt your RPI. I still think they're hosting.
Like the thing for Tennessee, they got a chance to finish strong. So they got Vandy and Arkansas, like you said. So those are RPI opportunities. If they win both of those series, yeah, they're going to host. Like all the factors, defending national champs, laundry, they get eyeballs. Like guys, they're going to host. And if they finish strong, like yeah, they would have earned it. And then they would be one of those teams that absolutely nobody wants to see in the tournament.
Yeah. Now here's a little bit of an issue. Strength of schedule is a little lagging. I mean, it's still pretty good.
But it's going to go up the last 2 weeks, especially if they win.
Well, it is. And I've looked at some of the predicted RPI stuff. Their ceiling is not where I thought it would be. And part of that, they got 159 Indiana State this Tuesday and 228 Belmont next Tuesday. So you might want to pray for rain there.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think will they cancel one or both of those games? Because even if you beat Belmont, like your RPI could drop.
Yeah, and it would. And even maybe against Indiana State. I mean, you see teams do that. They're weird because, I mean, it hasn't looked great lately. I get it. We've talked about it, but the metrics, man, are still really good. Now here's the thing. If you dig in, the top end series wins. Now, the sweep of Florida is looking better by the day. And a series win at Alabama on the road looking really good too. And same at Ole Miss. So, I mean, those are some really good series. I think the thing that's lacking, they haven't beaten, in LSU. They'll get a chance at Arkansas. They haven't really taken one of those series from somebody that we talk about as a national title contender.
Mm-hmm. But they get a crack at it the next 2 weekends, which is like the schedule shakes out well for them because, again, if they close strong, like none of what we've been talking a lot about is going to matter.
Yeah. I think what's hurting them is they got a lot of quad 4 games in here. Like you look down, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They got about a dozen wins against RPI 200 plus. Because I look at the resume and go, how's that add up to a 14? That's what's hurting the resume.
And Tress makes a good point in the chat. So they're going to play Indiana State just to count a game for the Liam Doyle stuff.
Right.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they just boot the Belmont game.
Yeah. So there's that. Vanderbilt right now is, 3 in the RPI, 13 and 12 in quad 1. What are they in quad 2? Apologies here. 8 and 1. So that's 21 and 13 in quads 1 and 2. That might be best in the country. North Carolina's up there with them too. Okay, Texas has got 22 quad 1 wins, quad 1 and 2. So I think they're the leader. North Carolina's got 20. But I mean, 21 quad 1 and 2 wins at this point is pretty crazy.
You're getting asked where you find these stats in the chat.
I'll put them in the chat. It's Warren Nolan. And I love that site. It's free. And sometimes they've got this updated within a minute or two of the games. I've shared it in the chat in case people want to look. So let's see. We're through Vanderbilt and Tennessee. And let's see. LSU's got a little bit of an issue. 8 in the RPI. 21 wins in quad 3 and 4. LSU is 17 and 9 in quads 1 and 2. 10 of those wins quad 1. 10 and 9 there.
The difference with them and Tennessee, like they close with South Carolina.
Yeah. But that's not good. And by the way, here's the thing that hurt Tennessee too. Tennessee lost 3 quad 1 wins today when South Carolina got swept by Florida. That because South Carolina was in the 40s coming into the weekend. Carolina dropped down to the mid 60s. So that's hurting some teams' quads right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So LSU's got, you said, closing with Arkansas, South Carolina. No, it's Alabama, excuse me. I mean, take care of business. You know, win 4-6, you're 19-9. You're a host. You're probably a national seed too.
And who knows? Like everybody thought that could have been a Paul Maneri reunion, but
yeah,
who knows?
Bama has got Georgia, Florida. Georgia's in Tuscaloosa. Florida's on the road. I mean, Bama's 13 in the RPI. Win 4-6. Heck, maybe win 3 of 6. You're in that hosting combo. 4-6. I don't know how Alabama would be out of it.
They just need everybody to get healthy, especially down the home stretch here.
Yeah, Ole Miss 18, 17 in the RPI, and Auburn and Mississippi State.
Auburn at home, State in Starkville. Can't remember the last time Ole Miss won a series in Starkville. I would have to look it up, but it's been a minute.
Okay, let's think through this. Could you get 9 or 10 SEC teams to 17 wins? Because Georgia can get there. Texas is already there. Arkansas is there. Auburn's got 3 against South Carolina. Sweep that, and then take 1 against Ole Miss. Auburn's there, 17 with Auburn's RPI strength of schedule. It's got Auburn hosting, and I think to not put Auburn in national seed at that point would seem wrong.
Who's Oklahoma got other than Texas? They would be the one. It would be tough.
Yeah, because Oklahoma's starting at 22 in the RPI today. They got Kentucky. I don't know, win 5 or 6 of those. I mean, you take at least 2 against Texas. Yeah, I think that's a reach, but I mean, it might. I'm just wondering, like, what's the number of teams that you could get to 17 wins? And then how many of those teams host? Because with the RPIs and that number of conference wins, that always is going to host. But this year, do they say, hey, it's just too many? Somebody's getting left out. You know, is that Alabama? Is that Ole Miss, Oklahoma? I mean, Florida could still get to 17 wins.
Man, they would have to go on the run of all runs.
Well, and if they did, they would get there because of who they would beat, I would think. But yeah, I think you can. I wouldn't count on that to happen, but gosh, even if Florida got to 16, that's winning 5 out of 6 against Alabama and Texas.
Mm-hmm. Something to watch for sure. They got, let me look it up. They got the second longest winning streak right now in the SEC. Only Georgia has more.
Yeah, I'm just. Here's the thing. The RPI thing is much easier to do. When you just say, all right, here's your resume. Here's your quad 1 wins. Usually I can tell you with decent certainty, you know, okay, that's a host. That's a national seed. This year, I don't know what it's going to be because we're getting into having to read the committee's mind. And does it just say, okay, enough is enough? You know, is the line 4 national seeds for the SEC? And just if you're 5th, sorry, don't care if the metrics look like a national seed. We're not going to give you more than 4. And is there a cap on regionals? I just don't know how they're going to do it. Now,
yeah.
The teams to watch, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina are all going to get a host somewhere.
Florida State's going to be the number 1 team in the country tomorrow morning.
Holy smokes. I didn't even think about that. I don't know that I agree, but that's the way the polls work, which I think is
It's
kind of dumb.
not going to be Clemson. This is 2 weekends in a row where Clemson has lost.
Yeah, well, it needs to be Arkansas or Texas, but anyway. Oregon State somehow, after losing 4 in a row to Oregon within the last week and a half, has climbed up the RPI. It's at 10 now.
They played 4 at Hawaii. None of those games are on
Okay.
TV or streaming, by the way. Hold on. I see this in the chat. Where'd it go? Steven, Tony Vitello would move to Arkansas tomorrow if given the opportunity. I don't know about that.
I'm not sure about that either.
He's making a whole bunch of money at Tennessee. Tennessee's giving him essentially almost anything and everything that he's asked for. Like,
I think that's a good fit for both parties.
He's got it rolling. Like, why would he want to go anywhere? Plus, like, I mean, Arkansas is a great job too. Like, they're gonna have a lot of people whenever Dave Van Horn retires, whenever that day comes. Like, Arkansas will have a lot of people be interested in that job, and like maybe Tony V will be one of them. I would just be surprised.
I would be too. Yeah, UCLA is starting to look like it's going to get a bid. I think Coastal Carolina is going to get one by winning the Sun Belt, probably.
I think there'll be one of 2 group of 5s.
The other would be
UC Irvine.
Irvine, yeah. I mean, I guess technically that's not group of 5 because the Big West is. But I know what you mean there. Yeah, Irvine did lose a couple. Have a bad loss or 2 this week, but they're 12-6 in quad 1 and 2. So I think right now you're looking at Irvine, Coastal, UCLA, Oregon State. Those 3 ACC teams is your out of the league competition. West Virginia dropped down to 20 in the RPI. I don't know what they're going to do with West Virginia. It still hasn't really beaten much of anybody.
They
lost to Marshall and lost to Texas Tech. Maybe if TCU, well, let's see. TCU's 15-9 in the Big 12. West Virginia's 18-4. Maybe TCU gives everybody the easy way out, has a higher RPI, and wins the conference. Just thinking out loud. And yeah, I mean, NC State was the team that everybody had pegged to win the ACC and get a bid. I didn't necessarily take the bait on that one because of the RPI, and now they've gone on a skid and 36 in the RPI.
Weekend.
Yeah. So I don't know the list of teams outside the SEC is getting small. You're going to get those 3 ACC teams. I think you're going to get a West Coast team. I think maybe 3.
If it's 3, it's going to be Oregon State, the other one.
Yeah, and I think the Big 12 gets one. They'll give one to TCU or to West Virginia.
Well, I think it's going to come down to West Virginia, Kansas, or TCU. And honestly, like, was listening to a media member for Kansas earlier this week. He had no idea if Kansas had even put in a bid to do anything baseball wise. Like, this is foreign territory for them, and like he literally had no idea.
Well, they're 38 in RPI and 1-6 in quad 1, so I'm going to kill that one for us.
There you go.
So let's say worst case scenario would be what? Oregon's another interesting one. Oregon is 19-10 in quad 3, and I know it just swept Oregon State. And it's 5-2 in quad. Are we really going to let a power conference team with 12 losses in quad 3 and quad 4 host? I just don't think that's right. I'm gonna rule that one out. I could be wrong. So I think your list of teams is West Virginia, Irvine, TCU, Coastal Carolina, UCLA, Oregon State. So that's 7.
And then the rest, SEC, ACC.
And then I'm going to give the ACC 3. So that's 10. So I think that's 6 hosting spots minimum for the SEC, and I'll be floored if it's only 6.
That's conservative, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, can West Virginia play its way out of one? It might have done that already for the time being, and I don't think West Virginia's final games. Let's see. Well, they got Kansas and Kansas State, so that's going to be their chance to kind of move back up the RPI again and get some good wins. But I mean, if you don't get those, if you don't win both those series, I think people are going to start digging in on what they've done. I mean, I would. And I don't know that all 3, Irvine, Oregon State, and UCLA are going to get in, but they might.
Yeah.
Coastal's probably going to get in because they'll give, Sun Belt. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Sun Belt's a good league. They just don't have the pitching that everybody else has.
Well, Coastal's got it.
But. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out soon. And what Josh just said, yep, agree with Josh. Tennessee ends up an 11 seed and it ends up matched up with Oregon State. Sign me
up. Well, look, if Tennessee got an 11, that would mean Oregon State were a 7. And I don't know if that's
high for the Beavers.
Yeah, I don't. Let me have to check the Boyd's World Needs report for that one, but let me check that one quickly.
Yeah, and also I saw in the chat, like somebody said we didn't touch on Auburn. Like we did. We've been going for almost 2 hours. I promise we touched on Auburn.
Yeah, I mean Auburn right now is a national seed.
Mm-hmm. Guys, like I was just there. Like that's what we were talking about. Just the fact that, yeah, they are. I can tell you, they are planning and preparing for hosting postseason play at Plainsman Park.
Okay, Oregon State needs report. This might be a little dated. They had 11 games left, needed to win 8 to finish top 16 and needed to win all 11 to get top 8 RPI. That's why I'm skeptical Oregon State can be a national seed.
Mm-hmm.
That and losing all 4 to Oregon.
Yeah, that was last weekend. Yeah, that was just a brutal blow for them.
So anyway, Josh, I don't think you're getting an 11 seed and going to line up with Oregon State for that reason. But Tennessee not being a national seed was something I did not have on the radar 2 weeks ago.
Being a national seed or not being a national seed?
Not being. But, yeah, I mean, that's right now they got work to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
but again, like that's the good news for them. They got the last 2 opponents, good RPI, strength of schedule, all that, to where if they close strong, they're going to be fine.
Yeah. And we'll get into all that on probably Tuesday. We'll do a live show, probably 10 a.m. We'll unveil our latest bracket. This time I won't put 2 teams from the same conference in the same regional. Apologies for that. And I'll give you the lowdown on, what's underneath the surface there, because I think that's more interesting than the projections. But anyway.
Yeah. Lots of Wes Johnson talk right now, too. Guys, like Wes Johnson is going to have options. I mean, he just is. Like, he's on the Mississippi State list. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we going at Mississippi State? What are we thinking?
For them, it seems like O'Connor's number 1 right now at Virginia. Now, how realistic is that? I don't know. But I do think they're going to try to get a Power 4 head coach, which they can do. Who's it going to be? No idea. And I think if they end up with somebody like Coggins at Georgia, I think that would be an excellent hire.
I still think Rob Vaughn's a tremendous fit.
I do too.
I just think the way they win with JUCO guys, he recruits the heck out of JUCO. You hear the stuff like, we need more guys that drive pickup trucks. I mean, Rob Vaughn's your guy for that stuff. If you're trying to go grinders and JUCO and outwork everybody, I think he's perfect.
He makes under $1 million in Alabama right now. State would pay him more. Now, Bama would try to fight to keep him, but
Yeah.
let's be real. Like, Alabama baseball is what, number 3 at that university? Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State baseball is number 2, and a lot of fans, it's number 1.
Yep.
So, like, he would have way more resources at a place like Mississippi State. Is he on the list? I don't know, but I do think he could win, and more importantly, I think he would be a good fit in Starkville and at Mississippi State. And he's young. He's the second youngest head coach in the league. He's 37, 38. So if you hit a home run, pun intended, with him, like, you could have him for a very long time.
Do you want to do medal stand for the weekend as a whole?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, also
I'll give you a minute to think.
Okay. Gig and Bart. People love Rob Vaughn for potential Aggie head coach. You know who else will love that? Rob Vaughn, because that was his dream school when he was in high school. He told us that.
He did not get recruited by A&M. Went to Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm giving you time to think. Just some stuff on the way out. Hey, if you guys don't subscribe to our audio podcast feed, I would really ask you to do that and give us a rating there. Leave us some nice, I mean, only if you want to. If you don't want to, then don't. But like, go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get them. Give us 5-star, leave us some nice comments. That'll help us pick up a little bit of an audience there. Most of our audience is on YouTube, but we're looking to grow that. Follow our social media accounts. At 16 Southeastern on Twitter. What are the other ones? We got Instagram. You handle all that stuff.
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah. So there's that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and leave us a thumbs up. That helps too. And memberships. Memberships $3 a month. Basically, it's a way to help us. We are going to give you some extra content. I know in my head what I want that to look like, but we got to talk it over as a staff and make sure that's the right thing. So I think if you join the membership tier right now, that's just doing us a solid. $3 a month. That, some of that goes in our pocket. Some of it goes to YouTube, but it does help us out. And we'll do something for members once we get that set up, probably starting this coming week. Super chat's always welcome. A lot of you did that tonight, especially Quinn. Quinn's always fantastic about that, so we appreciate that. Those are ways you can help the channel. And some of you got memberships tonight. We gave out a few, so congratulations to those who got those. We don't play favorites. YouTube hands those out at random. We say we're going to give some away, and some of you lucky people got those. So Graham, medal stand, teams of the weekend. Where you going, gold, silver, bronze?
To me, this is the most amount of winners that we had team-wise of any weekend. So we got plenty of options. I'm going to start gold. I'm going to start the Arkansas Razorbacks. Just what they did and just the way and the style that they did it. Again, dropping 3 series in a row for the first time in 9 years. What do? They have their largest crowd of any home 3-game series of the season. They almost had 40,000 people in Fayetteville this weekend. They looked really, really good. They passed the eye test. To me, they get the gold. My silver is going to be the Auburn Tigers. So I said it earlier, but they lost 7 straight SEC road series. Weird weekend weather-wise. You start, you stop. Hard to find a rhythm. They played at weird times when they did play, but to do what they did and went on the road, and really it seems like they secure a spot to host and maybe have a super regional. They get my silver. And then I'm going to go co-bronze just because I think you can't ignore, number one, what Texas A&M did to beat LSU at home to win that series, especially what they did today, winning in dramatic fashion late against who they did it against. LSU pitching wise, scoring 4 runs in the 8th inning to come from behind there. And then my other one is Oklahoma. Boy, they really needed this one to feel good about hosting, and they take 2 out of 3 against a good Ole Miss team. So that I know that's 4 teams, but I think all 4 of those are the big winners this weekend.
Okay, I'm going to mostly copy off your paper. I think Arkansas's got to be your gold, and I think Auburn's got to be your silver. I was thinking Mississippi State for the bronze, but I'm like, well, you can't leave out A&M taking 2 or 3 against a pretty hot LSU team. So I'm going to split it there between Mississippi State, which was playing like it had to have this weekend, and it got it. Tough spot, changing coaches, sweeping, and then A&M, and Ole Miss. Sorry, or Oklahoma. That great weekend. Look, anytime you take 2 out of 3 from Ole Miss, it's great. Just heavy competition. Player of the weekend. Gosh, I'm trying to think of who all. I mean, this has been so hard to keep up. Ordinarily, I got really detailed notes of this guy did this day, and the schedule just killed that.
Yeah, it did, and especially since I was working too with the 3-game series. But like to me, what I did watch, like it was Ike Irish. Like
Okay.
the sequence I touched on earlier with the 2-inning stretch, like that blew me away. I thought he was the definition of a game changer.
Let's see. Let's do hitters and pitchers. How about that? I think Irish is on the stand. I think Braden Holcomb for Vanderbilt. I think he hit 3 bombs this weekend, maybe, and one of them was a walk-off. I think he needs to be in the discussion.
Pitchers, like take your pick with Arkansas pitchers and then Kyson Witherspoon.
Yeah, well, I'm saying we'll do hitters medal stand and then pitchers medal stand. Since we usually do these night by night, we're doing series. So I'm fine with giving Ike Irish the gold and Holcomb the bronze. Who are we going to do with the silver for hitters? I know I'm leaving somebody or somebody's out. Caden Sorrell was pretty good.
Yeah, he was good.
Had a big, at least had some big. Ben Royo had some big hits this weekend.
Foley for Ole Miss again.
Yeah,
9 home runs in 14 days is insane.
I think Brody Donay had a big weekend. Man, I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. Pitchers, I think Ianson's got to be on there, even though he lost. Well, no, he won that. The game he pitched, he won, right? Or did he lose that one? But he pitched a complete game.
I think that's the one they won.
Kyson Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like any Arkansas arm, it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, Zach Root was really good.
11 Ks.
Yeah. I don't know.
And then like a lot of really good relief pitching. Morris for Ole Miss, Moss for A&M. Like Moss was electric today.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to get up hung on order here. It's getting late. It's time to wind down. Gosh, it's 10:38.
Well, it was an event. This was the most eventful weekend I feel like we've had. Like there was so much going on.
Honest to God, when you've got good baseball this time of the year, I can just sit here and talk forever, and time just kind of stands still. But I'm losing my voice, so there's that.
Cough drops. Get you some
yeah.
cough
Well,
drops.
I've been sipping tea, and that lasted a bit. Although caffeine before bed probably wasn't what I needed. Speaking of which, power rankings in the morning. We'll do those. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be the hardest one we've had all year.
Yeah. I need to look at where we had Arkansas last weekend.
Yeah. Parting thoughts.
Fun weekend, weird weekend. Fingers crossed weather cooperates this week. But coming into this weekend, Texas had a 5-game cushion, and now Arkansas is within striking distance. So I kind of think 3 through 6 is wide open, and I'm fascinated to see how this shakes out down the stretch.
Yeah, me too. Gonna be so much fun figuring out the hosts, national seeds. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than the next few weeks in college baseball. Really glad you guys are here. I just what's so cool is seeing some of these same people show up night in and night out, even when their teams lose. I mean, Randy and some of the Texas people are here. Josh is always here. Josh Carter. Um, love our audience. It's great. Y'all are good to us. We enjoy talking to you and serving you. TJ became a YouTube member. Thank you, TJ. Hope some of you others will jump on board there too. Just had a blast and cannot wait to do this for the next. Gosh, we've still got almost 2 months of baseball.
Yep. And I'm sure when Texas Rocks gets back in the chat, everybody will handle that gracefully.
Right. Yeah, and as soon as that's over, we'll have the draft. We'll hit the draft because you guys have all got guys getting drafted and high school signees that you're hoping don't get drafted or not high. I mean, we'll hit all that stuff. So, yeah, lots of fun. Hope you'll be here for that. Starting with power rankings at live at 10 tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks again. Like just essentially repeating what Chris said. Thanks for being here, watching us, listening to us, however you do it. For the memberships, like we very much appreciate you guys. We had a lot of people watching us live tonight, so we very much appreciate it.
Yeah, love and appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Again, be sure to follow the social media accounts and the podcast audio feeds. For Graham Doty, I'm Chris Lee. God bless you. Have a great night. Thank you for watching SEC Baseball Reaction here at Southeastern 16.